The arena stank of ozone, singed chitin, and roasted fruit, the signature smell of diplomacy in the Slaughterverse. Somewhere high above the chaos, a gelatinous announcer bubbled with excitement over the intercom, its voice simultaneously in 4 incompatible frequencies. The crowd roared in response. Predators and prey, sentients and semi-sentients, all pressed into the tiered stands of Thoth Grand Arena. This wasn't just any contest. This was the Apex Marksman Championship, a gladiatorial ballet where the galaxy's finest shooters demonstrated their lethality under the guise of cultural exchange. It was where empires measured superiority, and lesser species got vaporized for sport. In the western quadrant of the stands, a cluster of reptilian dignitaries sipped fermented tree sap through jewel-encrusted proboscises. One flicked its forked tongue in irritation. Humans are competing this cycle? It hissed to its companion. What could they possibly bring to the arena besides soft bones and optimism? Comic relief, the other replied flatly, adjusting its monocle. Down below, in the armory bay, Ellie Vance leaned against the alloy wall, utterly still. To the untrained eye, she looked like she was waiting for a coffee order. In truth, she was cataloging variables. Humidity, 93% oppressive. Air density, inconsistent, due to the arena's artificial gravity shifts, and enemy weapon calibers, 7 identified, for likely to liquefy her organs on contact. The announcer's voice cracked through again, louder this time. Ladies, gentlethings, and unclassified life forms, place your bets for round 17. The reigning apex predator, Gravok the Bone Harvester, will square off against, the voice paused for effect, the human rookie, Ellie Vance of Earth. Odds for 1,000 to 1. The crowd laughed. Ellie didn't flinch. The laughter was expected. Humans weren't exactly feared in the galactic community. Not yet. She checked her rifle, an Earth-designed kinetic railgun, compact and unassuming next to the alien monstrosities being prepped around her. To her right, a centipede-like marksman was polishing a plasma cannon larger than Ellie herself. It glanced away with all 8 eyes and emitted a low, vibrating chuckle. Fragile little monkey. It hissed in perfect standard. I've seen your kind burst under half a G-force. Ellie's expression didn't shift. Her voice was even, almost bored. You're about to see one do worse things under pressure. The centipede reared back, unsure if it had been insulted. Above them, the arena's holographic display flickered to life, projecting combatant statistics in a swirl of neon glyphs. Ellie's section was laughably sparse. Age, species, place of origin. Her kill count was marked unknown in flashing red, an omission the crowd took as a mistake rather than a warning. Gravok's stats filled 4 panels. 14 limbs, 3 auxiliary brains, 52 confirmed kills, each more inventive than the last. His ceremonial introduction began with a bellow that shook the arena walls. Ah! The Bone Harvester, the announcer cooed, victor of the Shatterjaw skirmish, slayer of the Twin Sun Sentries. His plasma rifle has ended wars. The crowd erupted in deafening applause. Bets updated in real time above their heads. 97% against the human. Ellie didn't bother to look. A galactic in turn, a nervous amphibian barely out of its spawning cycle, hopped toward her with a clipboard. Ms. Vance, you're supposed to, recite your pre-battle mantra. For the audience, Ellie met the creature's bulging eyes. Mantra? It's tradition, the intern croaked. The Claxian competitors was 17 stanzas long. Ellie slung her rifle across her back and straightened. Here's mine, don't miss. The intern blinked its inner eyelids rapidly. Run along, Ellie added gently. This'll be over quickly. The sound of hydraulic gates opening drowned out any reply. The arena floor stretched ahead, a floating labyrinth of shifting platforms, gravity wells, and glimmering force fields. A symphony of alien cheers and war chants thundered from above. Ellie walked forward, her boots clicking softly against the alloy floor. Her rifle sat easy in her hands, but her eyes were calculating. Each step she took was matched by the thundering approach of Gravok, whose massive frame cast a long, trembling shadow across the arena. He raised his rifle, an organic monstrosity that pulsed with venomous green light, and barked out something in his native tongue. The translation glyphs floated overhead. Prepare be remembered as a footnote. Human. Ellie stopped walking, adjusted her scope, exhaled slowly. Big words for a man in my sights. The arena fell silent for half a second. Then, with a deafening boom, the starting horn sounded. Ellie moved first. And for the first time in Galactic history, a human wasn't running away. Ellie Vance had been underestimated her entire life. It used to irritate her, how people would mistake her quiet for weakness, her stillness or indecision. But irritation, like most emotions, had long since been filed away as unnecessary. Out here in the galaxy's gaudiest death pit, it worked in her favor. She crouched behind a jagged column of alloyed stone, not because she was afraid, but because she was waiting for the variables to settle. The arena floor shifted again, gravity lurching sideways, sending stray debris tumbling into a glowing vortex. Somewhere above, the crowd gasped and roared, watching Gravak's enormous frame stomp across a rotating platform like a predator stalking an insect. "Fragile little thing," he snarled, scanning for her with compound eyes that shimmered blue and gold. His voice carried across the arena, amplified by the announcer's translation systems. Are all humans so slow? Or just the ones too stupid to stay on their own dirtball? Ellie remained still, thumb resting lightly on her rifle's trigger guard. She'd learned young that silence was power. People, aliens too, apparently, would fill the void with their own noise, their own projections, until they became blind to what was actually there. Gravak's plasma, rifle hummed to life, spitting gouts of venomous green energy that liquefied the stone where she'd been standing 2 seconds earlier. He didn't notice the subtle change in the air. Ellie was already moving. Breathe in. Assess. Breathe out. Move. There had been a time when she let herself be flashy, back on Earth, before the treaties, before she became Earth's reluctant representative in this galactic circus. On her first military op, she'd racked up 8 confirmed kills in under 4 minutes, earning her the nickname the Phantom. The name stuck, though not because she sought glory. Ellie wasn't in it for medals. She was in it for control, the razor's edge of precision that kept her alive and her squad breathing, until it didn't. That last mission on Titan Base still haunted her, the one where command demanded creative improvisation. She'd neutralized the threat, sure, but not before 3 of her team burned alive in their exosuits. She could still hear the static of their comms in her dreams. Ellie adjusted the rifle stock against her shoulder and exhaled slowly. Here, now. She wasn't haunted. The arena demanded presence. There wasn't room for guilt or memory, only physics and outcomes. She tilted her head, watching as Gravak fired again. This time, his shot cracked through the force field protecting a lower platform, sending molten shards spinning like shrapnel. The audience shrieked with delight. Betting glyphs flared above their heads, odds plummeting on Ellie's survival. She runs, she hides. A serpentine dignitary hissed from its balcony box. Pathetic species. I was promised entertainment. The human rookie they all mocked didn't look up. She let the weight of her rifle steady her heartbeat as she counted breaths. Gravity shifted. Air pressure dipped. Breathe in. Adjust for crosswinds. Breathe out. Fire. Her first shot wasn't for Gravak. It was for the support strut holding up the arena's west platform. The metal shrieked as it tore loose, sending a cascade of debris tumbling toward her opponent. Gravak roared in fury, his massive frame twisting to avoid the falling wreckage. Ellie didn't wait to see if he succeeded. She was already moving again, boots finding impossible purchase on a wall angled at 70 degrees thanks to the arena's artificial gravity flux. She'd trained for this, long before the Galactic Concord conscripted her as humanity's sacrificial lamb. Her brain calculated firing arcs, ricochet possibilities, and the fragile tensile strength of alien alloy faster than any computer they could have implanted in her skull. Humans weren't supposed to be able to process like this, which, she thought wryly, was precisely why she wasn't supposed to exist. The Concord had summoned her here as a joke, a thinly veiled humiliation for Earth. Send us your finest marksman, they demanded, expecting some puffed-up officer with delusions of grandeur. Elliot walked into the recruitment hall in a threadbare hoodie and combat boots, accepted the mission with a single nod, and disappeared again before anyone could celebrate. The brass didn't know what to do with her then. The galaxy didn't know what to do with her now. A plasma bolt sizzled past her ear, close enough that she felt the heat of it. Gravok was bellowing again, fury bleeding into desperation. "Stand still, human. Face me like a warrior." Ellie didn't answer. She didn't need to. Breathe in. 300 meters. Account for platform rotation. Breathe out. 2 degrees left to compensate for gravitic drag. The next shot left her rifle soundless. Deadly, it carved a perfect line through Gravok's leftmost rifle arm, severing it clean. The alien howled, stumbling, blood and bile spraying into the air. The crowd went silent. Ellie straightened, stepping out from behind the column, as if she had all the time in the world. Her voice carried across the arena, not loud, but sharp enough to cut through the thick, humid air. "You wanted to fight." She chambered another round. "This is me fighting." The arena's lights flared blood red. The announcer, for once, had no words. Above them, the betting glyphs flickered in confusion as a single line of text scrolled across every screen in the arena. Odds recalculating. Ellie smiled faintly. For the first time all match, she allowed herself a breath that wasn't measured or controlled. It tasted like victory, and she hadn't even started yet. The air shimmered like a fever dream as the arena shifted into its final phase. Gravity pulsed irregularly, dragging everything sideways before snapping back with bone-cracking force. The crowd roared louder with every flicker of instability, their voices an ocean of hunger and bloodlust. Gravok stalked the wreckage with plasma rifles cocked and ready, his 14 limbs coiling and uncoiling with the liquid grace of a predator that had never known fear. Ellie Vance moved like a ghost through the chaos. Her matte black suit absorbed the arena's garish lights, her boots finding silent purchase on the collapsing platforms. She didn't bother looking up at the audience. Their howls meant nothing. This wasn't their fight. Focus. Adjust. Breathe. The rifle in her hands felt like an extension of her body, light, familiar, perfect. Neural pathways burned with calculation, faster than any alien biotech could hope to imitate. She was reading Gravok's patterns now. The half-second lag in his right side after he fired, the slight overcompensation of his central limbs when shifting between platforms, the micro-tremors of rage radiating through his frame. "You can't run forever, monkey," Gravok bellowed, his voice amplified 100-fold by arena speakers. "Stand still and die like prey." Ellie didn't answer. She didn't need to. Another plasma shot screamed past her head, vaporizing a chunk of alloy 2 meters wide. The concussive force knocked her sideways, but she rolled with it, sliding under a jagged beam and landing in a crouch. Her HUD flickered briefly, recalibrating for gravitational anomalies and heat spikes. Angle, 23 degrees up. Wind shear, negligible. Targets breathing erratic. Heart rate accelerating. He's angry. Angry meant sloppy. Sloppy meant dead. The centipede marksman from earlier was watching from the sidelines, eyes wide and unblinking. Around him, betting glyphs danced in confusion. Ellie's odds had jumped from 4,000 to 1 to something no algorithm could process. Breathe in. Focus on the rhythm. Breathe out. Make it stop. She fired. The round ricocheted off a gravitic stabilizer, curved sharply midair, and buried itself in one of Gravok's secondary brains. The alien screamed, an ear-splitting sound that sent ripples through the air. His plasma shots faltered, spraying wild arcs of energy across the arena. "You insect!" he snarled, staggering. 2 limbs twitched uselessly. Ellie stood fully now, rifle resting loosely in her grip. "Funny, that's what I was going to call you." The audience didn't laugh. They didn't make a sound. For the first time in centuries, the Apex Marksman Championship felt like more than theater. Gravok charged, roaring so loud the air itself vibrated. His massive rifle swung in a brutal, sweeping arc designed to crush her whole. Ellie dropped to one knee. Calculations flowed through her like water. Distance, 6 meters. Arc velocity, 24 meters per second. Optimal firing window, 0.8 seconds. Now, her next shot severed the weapon's power conduit. Sparks cascaded like fireworks as Gravak's plasma rifle hissed and died. She pivoted smoothly, firing twice more. 2 more limbs collapsed, splintered at the joints. Gravak staggered and fell to one knee, his bulk shaking the floor. "Why you can't win?" he rasped. Ellie's boots whispered across the alloy as she stepped into his shadow. She lifted her rifle and placed the barrel directly between his central eyes. "Already did," she said softly. The arena's silence cracked like glass as her final shot rang out. Gravak slumped forward, still alive but pinned to the arena floor, his pride bleeding out faster than his ichor. The crowd stayed frozen, the weight of the impossible sinking in. A human had not just survived the Apex Championship. She had dismantled its reigning apex predator with cold, surgical precision. Ellie lowered her rifle and turned toward the exit. Above her, the holographic betting glyphs flickered violently before collapsing into static. The announcer's voice, once booming and smug, came out in a faint, uncertain gurgle. "L-ladies and unclassified life forms, we appear to have a winner." Ellie didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just kept walking. Behind her, chaos erupted. Half the crowd roared in outrage. The other half screamed in exhilaration. Gravak lay broken and gasping, staring at the human's retreating figure with something new in his alien gaze. Fear. One shot, one lesson, Ellie thought. Never underestimate Earth. And for the first time, the galaxy began to understand why. The aftermath unfolded like a drop stack of bureaucratic datapads, messy, loud, and with no one entirely sure who was to blame. Ellie Vance didn't stick around to see the chaos bloom. She holstered her rifle, boots whispering over the alloy floor as she walked away from the crumpled mass of Gravak the Bone Harvester. The alien's 14 limbs twitched weakly, plasma fluids pooling beneath his bulk. His eyes, compound, multifaceted, and now unfocused, followed a retreating figure in silence. The crowd broke first. A strangled cheer went up from somewhere in the upper tiers. It wasn't enthusiasm so much as raw confusion venting itself as noise. Others hissed and chittered in outrage, throwing bets into the air as if by sheer force they could reverse their catastrophic losses. Screens blinked wildly, projecting fractured odds in a single damning line in every Galactic script. "Victory, human competitor." On the western balcony, the reptilian dignitaries shrieked at their aides, clawed hands slamming into ornate datapads. "This is a diplomatic disaster." One spat. Humans weren't meant to win. They were meant to amuse. In the eastern gallery, a slug-like ambassador oozed across its seat in panic, shouting into a neural relay. If one of those pink-skinned primates can dismantle Gravak, what happens if they bring a team? Below, Ellie kept moving. She passed the first layer of security drones. They scanned her, weapons charged, but none fired. The system hadn't been programmed for a human victor. The drones blinked their photoreceptors, then hovered uncertainly as she strode past. A high-ranking Concord official, a bird-like creature with feathers like polished glass, fluttered down in front of her, blocking her path. "Ellie Vance," it croaked, voice sharp with a mixture of fear and outrage. "You violated the spirit of these games. Your methods were unsporting." She stopped, her head tilted slightly, as though considering whether the official was worth a reply. Then she spoke, quiet enough that the gathered crowd had to lean forward to hear. "Your mistake," Ellie said, "was assuming the games had spirit at all." The official recoiled. "You can't just walk away from this," it cried, feathers flaring. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I taught you something." Ellie's voice didn't rise, didn't waver. "Humans aren't prey. We aren't cute. We aren't harmless. Not when you put a rifle in our hands." The bird thing opened its beak, then closed it again. Words failed it. Ellie brushed past, boots ringing softly against the alloyed gangway. Behind her, Gravak struggled upright, ichor dripping from his ruined limbs. His voice, guttural and raw, rasped across the arena speakers. "She's not the soldier." A cough rattled through his chest. "She's a warning." The word spread like wildfire through the crowd. A warning. In the uppermost VIP box, The High Chancellor of the Galactic Concord slammed an appendage onto the comms panel. We need an emergency council. Immediately. If Earth's sending her as their rookie, what else are they hiding? But no one moved fast enough. The viral feeds had already lit up across 17 star systems. Clips of Ellie's kill shot looped endlessly, overlaid with memes, propaganda, and panic analysis. Primate Precision. Earth's Phantom. The Quiet Predator. By the time Ellie reached the docking bay, the galaxy was no longer laughing. Her ship waited. A battered Earth-class corvette that looked pitiful beside the Concord's sleek transports. She preferred it that way. Familiar controls. Predictable systems. As she keyed in the boarding sequence, a voice called out behind her, "Human." She turned. A young alien, barely more than a hatchling, stood trembling in the shadows. Its wide black eyes held no mockery, no arrogance, only curiosity. "What are you?" it asked softly. Ellie regarded the hatchling for a long moment. Then she crouched to its level, her voice dropping low and even, a polite warning shot. And with that, she stepped onto her ship and sealed the hatch behind her. The Corvette's engines flared to life, blue light spilling across the docking bay. As it lifted off, the galaxy felt a ripple it hadn't known in centuries. Fear. Ellie Vance didn't care about the fear. She didn't care about the council meetings or the screaming dignitaries or the chaotic markets collapsing under the weight of new odds. She cared about the rifle in her lap, the steady thrum of the ship's engine, and the quiet satisfaction of a mission completed. There would be other battles. But for now, she let herself exhale. For the first time in years, it felt like peace.